It is July the 16th, 2021. I'm Andy, and this is the Minorcan Mullet Report from the Golden Ray Wreck Site in the St. Simons Sound. And there's the Minorcan Mullet, but who is that? Wait for it. Wait for it. Yeah, you're right. That's ALFRED Montaner on the Minorcan Mullet. He was out with us getting some shots of the wreck. Here we are in the Port of Brunswick looking at Section 3. ALFRED brought some of his equipment up and really got some tremendous shots today. We kind of put the drone up a little bit and got in there a little tighter than we did the other day. Some of the stuff we saw, we got in there a little closer, able to see a little more. I wanted to share this with you guys, but really had a good time hosting ALFRED. He is a very talented guy, and it was a pleasure to have him aboard. His knowledge about photography and videography is incredible. Actually was more of a class today than anything else, and we certainly enjoyed having him aboard. It was a special treat, and very thankful that he took time out of his schedule to stop by, take a look, and I think he genuinely was in awe of the operation and what it takes to put it on. We kind of looked at it from as many angles as we could, and it was truly a lot of fun. But out at the site today, there was so much going on. It was a pretty crazy day. We saw some things out there today that we have not seen before, and we got lucky here when we caught this. We had not seen them transfer equipment like this out at the site. We've seen them do it out at the Port of Brunswick. But here today, we caught this, and it was really neat. They were transferring one of the mobile cranes from one barge to the crane barge, and then back from the crane barge to another barge. And we caught all this today while we were out on the Minorcan Mullet, kind of circling around the site. Weather conditions today it was hot, but it was a really nice day out on the boat. And we got out, and first thing we noticed was that the maintenance barge had been moved back away from the VB. And in looking at the VB 10,000, it looks like both cutting blocks, the offshore side, the inshore side, they're hanging. It looks like everything there is in place, ready to go. But then we got out there, and we see this going on. And they've got this mobile crane suspended with this cable system. And then here they are. They're picking it up off of the one barge and setting it back on that crane barge. And we saw just so much stuff going on. Here we have the dive crew. They were out working on the east apex of the environmental barrier, and it looks like they've got a new dive boat. We didn't see the Mr. Ed. That's the dive boat that we're accustomed to seeing out on the site. This one looks like it's called the Little Duke, and dive crews were out, and they were working on the very tip, easternmost tip of the environmental protection barrier. The Ark Independence, it's a Wallenus Wilhelmsen roll-on, roll-off ship, making a pass by while we're out there while all this is going on. Our attention's drawn over there. And then we see the Caitlin inbound with another barge. And this is actually going to be the barge that they transfer the crane to. And there was just more surprises as the barges pass by. Here we're kind of looking down. Again, you can see the block system, both the inshore and offshore blocks, as well as the blocks used to suspend the wreck while they're cutting on it and lifting. Everything looks like it's in place now and ready to go. And those the maintenance barge that was underneath the superstructure of the VB has been moved out. And of course, the environmental barrier on the south end was open this afternoon because so much of this activity, barge traffic, was being moved in and moved out at the site. It was just really a lot of stuff going on. And here we can see that this is the crane that they picked up, and it's actually sitting on the barge that is housing the bigger crane. It's what you're going to see here is the Luann Gildry. But you guys that have been watching the following channel are going to be familiar with that tug. It's going to back the barge that they take this crane off of out, and then we're going to see the Caitlin come by, and it's going to go into the barrier and tie up alongside of the crane barge, and then they're going to set the crane back on here. Here we have the Caitlin coming in, and we can see that there's some of the equipment is on this barge. Looks like it has a couple lifts, and we see her kind of steaming in, and the Caitlin's on the hip of the barge, ready to maneuver itself into the environmental barrier and get alongside the crane that's now holding it. We see the Luann Gildry here backing out. They have taken the crane off of this barge. It comes out. We're going to see both these barges kind of pass by, and we're going to get a surprise on each one of them. One thing we noticed as the Luann Gildry is going to pass by on that barge, we're going to see one of the blocks. It looks like they possibly swapped out one of the blocks. It looks like one's going back in for maybe some more extensive maintenance, but we're going to see that block a little closer and kind of get an idea of the size of that block, and that makes up part of that cutting system. But as this barge backs out, we're going to kind of look around, kind of watch it, and then we're going to see the Caitlin come by, and on board the barge that the Caitlin is now pushing into the environmental barrier, we're going to see a section of that chain up kind of close and get a better idea of the size of that anchor chain that they're using to cut the Golden Ray into pieces. All of this happening at one time. It was kind of difficult to keep a camera going and to try to keep the boat pointed in the right direction, because it was everywhere we looked, the whole site was just abuzz with activity. But if we look towards the stern of this barge, you're going to see one of those, the rear man lift, that green piece of equipment that's laying there. We started looking at that, and I saw something that looked familiar, so we kind of zoomed in on it, and then sure enough, there's a big section of that chain that is on the deck of that barge, and you can really get an idea of the size when you see the size of the links that make up this chain system. Huge pieces of metal. Keep in mind that each one of those links is about 70 or 80 pounds. We're going to watch the Caitlin kind of steam by on its way into the barrier, and then passing back is going to be the Luann Gildry. And then on her deck, we're going to get a look at that one of those blocks that's been taken off of the VB 10,000. And we can only assume that they swap out these blocks where they may need some additional machining, or there's something that needs some more attention that needs to be given to those blocks, more than what they can service in the field. and maybe these are taken in where they can put them in a kind of a machine shop setting where they can continue doing the maintenance or replacing bearings or possibly shafts that the shivs turn on. But when we get to this picture of this block, right on the other side of the block, you're going to see a little white dot. And that's actually a hard hat from one of the crew guys on the barge. And keep in mind that this block is laying on its side, and you can understand how big this block actually is. It's really something else. So we go back now, we're seeing the Caitlin back into the environmental barrier. We see that the crane barge still has that crane cabled up. They've got the slings down on it, and it's waiting for the barge to get pulled in. And it's just listening to the communication on the VHF between these crews and these tug captains and crews that make up this entire operation. It's really impressive. These guys are in constant communication with one another. They're talking about, you got to keep in mind, these guys are sliding these barges in against the current, sideways to the current. They've got wind now that's blowing on them, and the amount of weight they're dealing with here, as far as the weights of the barges and the equipment they have on them, and they make it look just so easy. And it's pure skill in understanding the machinery that you have to work with and knowing how to use that. Just very impressive to watch these guys do what they do in the deck crews and how they work the lines. And all these guys are in constant communication with one another, very professional, and they make it look so easy when they do it. Now, another thing I want to talk about a little bit with you guys, we had a couple comments about the vandalism that occurred on yesterday's video, previous evening, about the cable, and we had some guys come. It said that, hey, that might be corrosion, and it is a good possibility that the perceived vandalism is actually corrosion, where these cable pieces were crimped in. It may just be that they've corroded. They've been in there for a while, and it could have been in a place where it wasn't easily identifiable because it was in that crimp that closes off the ends of that cable. So hey, appreciate you guys commenting, adding a part of it that we hadn't thought of, and hopefully we'll get maybe the Unified Command folks maybe taking a look at the video and may consider that and go back and look at those pieces that they have a little closer, and very well could be. We certainly hope that's the case. We hope that nobody's out doing anything like that, these systems that are particularly around that Bird Island. Oh, very sensitive area. Well, hey, what's become kind of a side story to the Golden Ray wreck removal has been a removal of the navigational beacons for the St.Simons channel. Coming in here today, this is what we see. One of the towers completely gone. These crews have completely disassembled it, and it is now on the barge. This will be taken away. They're going to remove those concrete piling systems. Some new pilings are going to be put in their place, and a new tower constructed, or two new towers to replace these. These navigational beacons will be replaced. The the base of these things, and really more so the concrete piling system has begun to show some pretty significant problems and some deterioration, so they've decided to replace those. Well, hey, we know it's been a pretty long video today. Thanks for staying with us. We're going to ask, if you haven't done it yet, click on that subscribe button. Continue to send us comments. And most of all, we want you guys to stay safe out there.